Do you like chili? Check out our video on how we like to make chili on this next episode of Out Loud Geek. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss a variety of topics, including science fiction, fantasy, cooking, the outdoors, and more. Today on this episode of Out Loud Geek, I will be preparing Crockpot chili with beans. Now, while I understand that not everyone who likes chili likes to have beans in it, this is something that we like, so this particular recipe does include 3 different types of beans. To make the chili base, I will be using the following: 1 8-ounce can of tomato paste, 2 15-ounce cans of tomato sauce, 1 15-ounce can of stewed tomatoes, 1 15-ounce can of diced fire-roasted tomatoes, and 1 small can of Hatch diced green chilies. Now, for green chilies, you can use any brand. We just happen to prefer the Hatch brand, and so that's what I'm going to be using. These are the 3 types of beans that we use in our chili. 2 15-ounce cans of black beans, 2 15-ounce cans of dark red kidney beans, and 1 15-ounce can of garbanzo beans. The last 3 ingredients are chili powder, 1 medium yellow onion, and 1 pound of ground turkey. Or you could use 1 pound of ground beef. It's up to you. First, I'm going to turn on the crock pot. So I'm going to turn it on. Then I'm going to make sure it's set to high, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to run for 4 hours. So the first thing to do is to put the tomato paste in. And it's extremely thick, as you can see, so the best way to get it out is often initially with a knife. And now the crock pot is on. That was the beep. So working the knife in the can, you can start loosening the tomato paste to get it out of the can. Tomato paste is usually very thick, and a knife is quite often the best way to get it loosened up so that you can get it out of the can. This doesn't get it completely out though, so I will also be using a spoon to make sure that I get everything out of the can. And that is pretty much everything. And there we go. There is the 8 ounces of tomato paste. Finally, got it out. To this, I am now going to add the tomato sauce. That there indeed is the tomato sauce. There goes the first can of tomato sauce. Here is the second can of tomato sauce. There we go. And now I'm going to open the stewed tomatoes and put those in. There's the stewed tomatoes, all nicely in. And I'm going to give this now a quick stir, just to start making sure that everything will start blending here. It smells very, very tomatoey right now. And I will now add the diced fire-roasted tomatoes. And these smell really good. So this will give it a nice fire-roasted taste on top of everything else. Next, I'm going to add the diced green chilies, which I have already opened. And I didn't drain them, I just want to go ahead and use everything that's in the can. So there goes the can of green chilies. Now that everything is in, as far as the base goes, the main part of it, I can now stir it up a bit. And next, I need to add some spice to it. For the spice, I'm actually going to be using 2 tablespoons, initially anyway, of chili powder. So I'm going to put my spoon in there, which is not easy to do. There is 1 tablespoon of chili powder. And here is the 2nd spoon of chili powder. And that is the primary spice that you really need to use. The rest of the flavor is going to come from the tomatoes, from the beans, and from the meat, which I haven't prepared yet, but I will be showing that very shortly. So now I've got the tomato portion done. Now I'm going to cover the tomato base so that it can start heating up more so that I can get the beans ready to add. So before the beans can be added to the chili base, I have to drain each can, and then I'm going to pour each can of beans into this colander. So first, here is the first can of black beans. And I got everything out of the can. Now I'm going to open the 2nd can of black beans. Release the can opener. Now I'm going to drain that juice out. So when we make this chili, we don't actually like to have any of the juice or other gloppy stuff that's in the beans. Oh, so I actually opened up a can of dark red beans, the kidney beans, but that's okay. It all goes into the same pot. So there's the first can of the red kidney beans, and I'll go ahead and grab and open the next can. And initially drain it, because we don't want that juice. And then pour that into the colander. Now at this stage, that's quite a bit of beans in the colander, so I'm now going to go ahead and rinse these so that I can then put them into the pot. This helps to clear out any other gunk that might have been in the can, so that all you have are just the clean beans. That's what we prefer. And it doesn't take long to rinse them off. Just to get the gunk off. And you can see the plate is covered in gunk too, so very quickly I'm going to rinse that off. That's all stuff that we don't want in the beans. And I'm going to set it there for a moment. And now you can see that the crock pot has steam forming on the lid, so the contents is all heating up inside. And I'm now going to add this first set of the beans, which is about half of the beans that are going into this chili. And I will give that a good stir to make sure that they all get very nicely mixed into the chili base. Now I'm going to put the lid back on so that it can continue heating as I get the rest of the beans. Next, I'm going to pour the 2nd can of black beans into the colander, as well as the garbanzo beans after I have drained the juices out of their cans. So here is the 2nd can of black beans. And now I'm draining the garbanzo beans. like so. And then I pour those into the colander. Now I can rinse these off, just like I did the other beans. And shake it around a little bit if you want to, just to make sure that they're all rinsed off, to get as much of the gunk from the can off of the beans. And those are now rinsed, but the plate's kind of messy, so very quickly I'm going to pour that down and rinse the plate off again, because I don't want to transfer that gunk over to the pot at all. So I'm going to set those back down, and now I am ready to go back over to the crock pot. So now I'm ready to put the remaining beans into the crock pot. So I will lift off the lid, which you can see is all steamed up again because it's heating up well. I will pick up the colander and then pour the contents, all the beans, down into the chili. And now I will give it a good stir once again to make sure that everything is well blended inside of the crock pot. This is just the base. There's still 2 more things that need to go in, which we're going to prepare right now, after I put the lid of the crock pot back on. The next part now is to prepare the yellow onion. This is a medium-sized yellow onion, and very quickly I'm going to rinse it so that it's a little cleaner before I cut into it. The onion has to be chopped, but I have a very handy tool that will simplify that. So the first thing is to cut off the ends that you don't want. And I will put those into our little composter that we use. And now I'm going to make sure that the outer skin of the onion is completely removed, because you don't want to eat that. That doesn't taste good. And I am going to cut this onion basically into fourths, like so, and like so. Now I'm going to get our very handy chopping tool, which makes working with onions extremely simple. I lift this up, I drop part of the onion onto, whoops, there's a little piece of skin, get that off. I put the onion here on the grating, lower this down, and then press down really hard, just like that. It's a little loud, but inside I have diced onion, and one last time with the fourth piece. And I'll lift this up, and you can see inside of this chopper, it holds the entire contents of the chopped onion very nicely inside. I can even give it a little bit of a shake there. Now I will turn the stove on under my large frying pan, which is 13 inches, and it is non-stick, and I will be turning on the vent fan above. So I will turn this up to about 1/3 of the way, which is a pretty good temperature I have found for frying in these pans. And I'm going to add about 1 or 2 tablespoons of canola oil that I can fry the onions in. And I will move the pan around like so to make sure that the oil has thoroughly coated the entire bottom surface of the frying pan. And I just have to wait a moment for the pan to heat up. So this is that chopper again, And it's very easy. You just lift this lid up off of it, set it aside, and when you're ready to take the contents and put it into the pan, you just lift out the grate that did all the chopping work, like so. There's all the chopped onion that I just made, and into the frying pan it goes. And I'll use my hand very quickly to get the rest of it out and into the frying pan, because these little pieces of onion are damp and don't necessarily want to come out of the chopper. But that part's now done, and I can put the chopper into the dirt, into the sink. Next, I will get a spatula so that I can start stirring these onions into the oil so that they will start frying. And I'll turn the heat up just a little bit just to speed up the frying process. And I'll be frying these onions until they reach a more translucent color. This ensures that they'll be sweet and very tasty. I can see some browning now happening on the onion. There we go. Okay. Well, I do believe these onions are sufficiently sauteed at this point to go ahead and add the meat into the pan. So I'm going to grab the raw meat. Now I have opened up this casing that has the turkey meat in it and let it just slide out like so. Now the turkey is starting to fry, so I can start to break up this log of raw ground turkey so that it can more thoroughly cook. And as I said, you don't have to use ground turkey. You could use ground beef if you prefer, or if you are a vegan, you could even use some kind of meat substitute. You don't have to put meat in this chili. It's a very flexible recipe. Start breaking up the meat more as it cooks with the onion. Doesn't hurt to start that. Get it all broken up as much as you can in the frying pan. Okay, I think that's pretty well browned. So I'm going to turn off the stove and get this ready to put into the chili. I put a cooling rack here so that I don't set the hot pan directly onto the countertop. I then open up the crock pot because, and as you can see, there's a lot of water condensing on the lid because it's nice and hot. And now I'm ready to put the meat down into the chili, like so. You just scoop it out. Let me fix that. There we go. Drain out the excess moisture. I have the pan slightly tilted so that as I scoop the meat and the sauteed onion from the pan, the moisture is moving away from it. And I'm pushing the meat and the onions towards the other direction because I don't need all of the moisture from the cooked onions and meat. I think that's good enough. Now I'm going to set the pan back down, fix the camera, and now I'm ready to stir the meat and the onions into the chili, like so. So now I'm going to put the lid back on, and now all I have to do is just let this simmer. I only have to come over here about once an hour to stir it, which I will show as I come back and do that. So it's been an hour since I last checked the crock pot, so I'm going to open it up and give the chili a stir. And if you can see that on the video, The chili is now bubbling along the edges of the crock pot, so it is definitely getting fully heated now, and it's fully cooking. Okay, now I'm going to wait for another hour and repeat this process. It's been yet another hour since I last stirred the chili, so I'm going to lift up the crock pot lid, and lo and behold, it is really bubbling away right now. The whole thing is cooking very beautifully. The garbanzo beans no longer look as white as when I first put them in. They're starting to become more of a yellowish orange color, so that's a good sign that they're cooking as well. So now I'm going to put the lid back on and let it cook for another hour before I stir it again. So it's been another hour again since I last stirred the chili, and once I lift the lid, you're going to see how much it's bubbling. This has been cooking now for 4 hours. That's when I first started to make the chili base. It's been 3 hours though since I added the sauteed onions and the browned ground turkey. But what I'm going to do at this stage is I'm actually going to lower the temperature of the crock pot from high down to low, because at this stage it doesn't need to continue cooking on the high temperature. So I'm going to set the spoon down here for a moment after stirring it, and I'm going to come over here, lower the temperature to low. So the other thing that I want to do is I'm going to taste this, because it's been cooking for several hours, and I want to see if the chili might need any more chili powder for flavor. So I'm going to take a small spoonful just to see what it tastes like. That tastes really good. You could probably use just a little more chili powder, so I'm going to set the lid back down and put the spoon that I used into the sink. Then I'm going to add a little more chili powder. So here is a teaspoon of chili powder, and I'm going to sprinkle that around. And I'm going to stir that into the chili so that it can blend in and add a little more chili flavor to the chili. And now I'm going to put the lid back down. And even though I lowered the temperature on it, I'm going to check it again in another hour. So it's been another hour since I last stirred the chili in the crock pot, and since I lowered the temperature down to low. And as you can see, even though the temperature is lowering down, the chili is still bubbling away, nicely cooking. So I'm just going to let it keep cooking after I stir it, but it's looking really good. Put the lid back on and wait until the next hour. It's now been 6 hours since I started cooking the chili, and it's time to stir it once again. It's been on the lower heat now for 2 hours, and it's also been 2 hours since I added the extra amount of chili powder because I thought it needed just a little bit more. So this time, since it's been 2 hours since I've added that and it's had time to cook throughout the chili, I'm going to go ahead and give it another taste test to see if it's now more at a level that we like. I'd say it's pretty close now. I'm debating whether to put a little more chili powder in it or not, but I think for now I won't. But I will let this simmer for a while longer until we're ready to plate. So I'm going to put the lid back on, and I'll stir it again in another hour. I'm now ready to plate a bowl of chili. And how I like to plate it for myself may be unusual to some of you. The first thing I like to do is to actually put down some plain Fritos. Over the years, I have found that Fritos just have this really good flavor that goes really, really well with chili. And I also like how the Fritos are crunchy, so they give kind of a change in texture as compared with the chili. And I'll put a few more in there. It's probably about 1 or 2 ounces. Don't want to overdo it because Fritos do have a lot of fat in them. And now I open up the chili and I will give it a good stir. I also had turned the chili down to the lowest setting in the crock pot, which is warm. And you want to give it a good stir. And then take some out and then pour it over the Fritos. Take another scoop and that should about do it. So now I'm gonna put the lid back on so that it stays warm. And there are two more things I'm going to do to dress this chili before I eat it. First, I'm going to put a little bit of cheese on it, which is the grated cheddar and Monterey Jack cheese. Then I'm going to put a little dollop of sour cream on top. So here is one more close-up view of the chili before I sit down to eat. This is going to be incredibly good. Bon appetit! Thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to press the like button below. And if you'd like to see more of our videos in the future, please subscribe to our YouTube channel right now by clicking on the subscribe button. If you'd like to leave a comment, please feel free to post one below. See you next time on Out Loud Geek.